My notes for this scene are super fast because it was a super quick scene, is what the hell was the point of this scene? This is all so stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Come on. Can't you send them off with some dignity?
Yes. Welcome to The Right Advice. I'm Randy.
And I'm Amber. And today we're talking about episode 2 of season 3, Picard. That's from Star Trek. Anyway, first reactions. What'd you think?
I thought it was a decent episode.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it did some things better than the first episode, but I felt like I had more complaints than the first episode as well. And maybe it's because I was more forgiving for it being a first episode that I let these things go. But now they're bugging me, so I'm going to complain about them.
Okay, complain away.
All right, I will. Okay, so 2 weeks before the events of episode 1, Jack Crusher is on the Elios, and he bribes some Fenris Rangers so that he can deliver medical supplies to a planet that's in quarantine. Unbeknownst to Jack, the Ranger leader secretly reports to somebody that he calls the Marked Woman, and he says that we have found him. All right, so first scene, what'd you think?
I think it was interesting. We don't know anything about that Jack, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this gives us the opportunity to be introduced to him and find out more about him. And it is always nice when they're like, you know, that scoundrel that's kind of in trouble and they're charming.
Han Solo-ish?
Yeah, Han Solo-ish.
I got major Han Solo vibes from this. Yeah.
So maybe that's not what you want to do because that's your competition is Star Wars, right? So Star Trek should really stay away from Star Wars type characters because then you're kind of supporting the enemy.
Yeah.
Although Star Wars is doing plenty right now to shoot
sabotage
themselves. Yeah. So maybe it doesn't matter.
I gotta agree there. For the Jack character, I didn't find him very appealing. I could get behind what he was doing, but I wasn't fully, I was getting like Dr. McCoy sort of vibes from him. Like he's a Han Solo Dr. McCoy. And if that's what they were going for, it's not the best mix in the world. And he's not coming across as a very attractive character. He's being a bit of a, I won't say the word, but he's being one of those. And I want to really like this Jack character, especially if he does turn out to be Picard. And that's the thing that's going through everybody's minds at this point, is he Picard's son? And but it was a good mystery setup. Set up a good mystery, like, you know, why, who is the Marked Woman? Although I'm pretty sure that's going to be Beverly.
I like that. Who is the Marked Woman? That was kind of a mystery. Yeah. And I do like that she's a marked woman. So, that's kind of sexy and mysterious at the same time.
Yeah, but so do you think, now here's the question. So is it Beverly or is it the bounty hunter, the marked woman? Because I think it could have been either one, because we didn't see Beverly in this scenario. Like maybe she was separated from Jack and the marked woman is actually Beverly, because if she's a marked woman, then that means she's the one that everybody's looking for. Like, you're the marked woman, right? I don't know. If it's a little unclear who it is, and by the time you get to the end of this episode, you're still wondering, but honestly, it was just a setup scene, so it set up a good mystery. There you go.
So, you're talking about McCoy. I mean, do you think Jack should have said, "Damn it, Picard, I'm a smuggler, not a doctor."
But he does seem to be a doctor. He's like, I'm a smuggler and a doctor.
All right, because you have to change it a little bit, because that's McCoy's line, and you can do something similar, but not exactly the same.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, did I derail the conversation there?
I think it was a good use. You kept it in the realm of Star Trek, so it works. And, Star Wars, like, because you're right, this is competing with Star Wars, and because you have such a Han Solo-ish type character, not a great move, and not a very original move.
No.
I mean, come on. You could have had him be like a really good liar, like, oh no, I'm trying to go there and do good. And that would have been interesting more, but whatever. Okay, let's see what they do with this guy. That's all I can say at this point. What are they going to do with this smartass? In the present day on the Elios, Jack tells Picard and Riker that they have been chased by lots of different people and now this enemy ship. Sensors show that the enemy ship is targeting all systems on the Elios, so Picard says, let's get Beverly, who's still in her life support pod, onto the shuttle and reach out to the Titan for help. All right, so I had a couple notes for this scene. The first one is, in the previous episode, it left off with Riker and Picard going, who is that? Who's following you? What's going on? And Jack says, well, here, see for yourself, and turns on the screen as if he knows who's following him. The way he delivers that line made me think, oh, he knows who's following him and why. But now we're introduced to, he doesn't know who's following him or why. They see the screen, they're like, who is this guy? He's like, I don't know. At first it was Klingons, and then it was Fenris Rangers or whatever, and then it was some Starfleet guys, and now this person. It seems like he's been running from several people. He doesn't understand why, but
he's
anyway,
popular.
So we're still in the same place that we were before. Jack has absolutely zero information on why this person is after him. And then my second complaint about this, and this was a big one, and this is, again, I love Patrick Stewart, but I don't think he has the physical ability to deliver lines the way that he used to. And that is, in this moment, the first thing he does is say, okay, we're clearly outgunned by this ship, so we should make contact and try to talk to them. And the way he suggests that, it's like he's never commanded a ship before, and he's like come up with this, what we should do is make contact and try to negotiate with them. I felt like it was just bad delivery. And then
But you have to admit that that's a good way to use him in this episode, right? He's being smart. He's acting kind of captain-like. Well, acting. He is doing captain-like actions, right? But at this point, he may not be able to deliver the lines in an effective way that will make that work.
Yeah, and in his next move is, okay, they don't want to make contact, so you know what we should do? We should get Beverly onto the shuttle and then, reach out to the Titan and hope that they'll come and help us. That line was not very commanderly. And I mean, just the line itself was like, well, the line could have been rewritten as like, we have no other option. We have to, contact the Titan, like get on the horn ASAP. And it didn't feel like this was a man who had ever been in charge before.
And can you imagine Kirk ever saying, I think we need to let someone help us?
Yes, that's exactly what it felt like. It was so bad. It was so weak. This is a weak man. And I mean, even Riker, I think they could have given this moment to Riker, like seeing that maybe Picard is having a brain fart moment because he's possibly seeing that this could be his son, like he's wondering what's going on, or he's really preoccupied with being worried about Beverly possibly being dead. And so Riker takes in. These are two men who should have been in total control of the situation. Neither of them seemed to be in control, and it just bugged me. So
I agree.
On the Titan, the sensors detect the third ship and determine that the shuttle is in danger. Hansen wants to go and save Picard and Riker, but Shaw says no and then dismisses Hansen. On the Helios, while Jack hustles to get his mother onto the ship, Riker quietly tells Picard that there's something familiar about Jack. Suddenly, the enemy ship fires on the Helios, and Beverly's life support pod loses power, so her life signs are fading, and now the shuttle is destroyed. I felt like this was, again, just such a poor representation of Picard and Riker as being former commanders. They seem completely out of ideas, and what do you know, they don't act quickly enough, and now the shuttle is blasted away, they're trapped. And then the stuff that was going on the bridge of the Titan, I was all right with. So like 7 of 9 and Shaw, them like detecting what's going on in the cloud and going like, hey, we're detecting that there's gunfire going on in there. Maybe they're in danger. And he's like, I don't care. And then he's like, and you're dismissed.
I love Shaw. I continue to love Shaw. To me, he is the best part of the show.
You've got a weird fascination with this guy. And I gotta say, I liked him more in the first episode than the second episode, but I get it. I think I get it a little slightly. I could see great potential for awesome comedic conflict in him. I could see that. Oh, unfortunately, this isn't a funny situation. He's making it funny.
I could totally run an entire series based on his character, and other stuff that I come up with. I would love that opportunity.
We had some people in our comments saying, "Oh, I'd love to see like a Starfleet Academy with Shaw there and like the training, like Starfleet Academy Hogwarts. It should be a thing." It should be a series.
Starfleet maiden voyages. Right?
That would be so fun.
Every time he's the one that gets assigned. I mean, because he insults someone higher up than him. And they decide that, you know what, maybe we think you need to be a little more humbled. And so we're signing you to Starfleet, and you will be the captain for like the first month, for the newbies, for like the first month or whatever period of time that they would determine that the cadets are seasoned enough that they're not dangerous anymore.
Oh my goodness.
It would be such a great show.
Look, if you can handle this guy, then you're ready for a real starship. He's like the hazing of Starfleet. Starfleet Academy hazes all of their students upon graduation. They have to serve with Sean. If they make it with him, they're in.
And it's a punishment for him.
Yeah. So it's like double whammy. Like
double whammy.
2 birds, 1 stone. Awesome. I like it.
That would be a great show.
That would be hilarious. Rafi Musiker is watching news broadcasts about the terrorist attack on the Starfleet Recruitment Center. Larak Taluko, who's the leader of a Romulan rebel faction, is supposedly the believed perpetrator. Musiker's handler says that Starfleet Command is terminating the investigation until further notice, and that's because the suspect has been denied. But Rafi says that she wants to talk to the Ferengi Sneed, who supposedly brokered this deal with Larak Taluko, because Rafi believes that Sneed is covering for someone else. The handler keeps saying no, but Rafi finally says, you know what, I'm going to figure this out on my own for the sake of the dead. Okay, so I have a first note here, and I'm really struggling to decide if this was poor lines, like the lines themselves were bad, or if the delivery from the actress was poor. I did not like this scene at all. It either felt like it was not over the top enough, like she was upset about it enough, or like she should have been more subdued. It felt like she was in between 2 stages where she could have played this off as she is furious that they are going to call her off of this, or she is, like the not Sherlock Holmes, but she's the detective going like, wait, something's off about this. Don't you feel that something's off about this? She was in the middle and it just felt off. And again, I should probably watch it a couple more times before I figure out if it was the lines or the delivery of the actress. But it just felt awkward. It felt very awkward, this whole scene.
I did feel that it moved forward the mystery element. And as far as that writing part, that it worked all right.
Yeah, and it does that because she is calling out that I think that this Sneed guy, this Ferengi, is covering for somebody. So the first thing it made me think is, why would Starfleet want it to be believed that, oh, it was this Romulan guy who did it? Why would they be okay with everybody thinking that? And all I can think is somehow Starfleet screwed up and this equipment they're covering for Starfleet in some way. That's the only reason I can think of Starfleet wanting to cover this up, is that they're covering their own butt in some way. And I'm sort of reminded of, what was that operation? It was a real life one, where a bunch of weapons were sold to the cartels so we could track them or something. Like in real life, like the Mexican cartels were sold a bunch of weapons from the US basically. I forget what it was, but it was a big scandal because it was like, why are you selling weapons to the cartels? And it had
Contragate?
It had something to do, was that it? What was it called?
Contragate.
Contragate, is that it?
Because they sold it to the Contra group. Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember the names, but this wasn't that long ago. It was like, I don't know, 10 years ago, less than that even. And this reminded me of that. And it made me wonder if maybe that's like something that we're seeing here, that like Starfleet let this happen and now it's out of their control and they're going, oh crap, it was a bad idea. So that's my sort of a prediction based on this little thing.
Okay, so I hear Sneed and I laugh. And I'm thinking, all right, so this is kind of for this series, this character and the moments with this character should be kind of the more serious, darker, because that feels better, that feels more natural with a mystery, right? Yeah. And then you have Sneed.
The name.
Who is from Captain Hook. He's the...
that's Smee, S-M-E-E. Yeah, but close. I totally thought Captain Hook too.
Okay, I thought Captain Hook. Okay, you're right, Smee. So...
Or Sneeze. It could have been either.
Okay, so it's not Captain Hook. Then it reminds me of Dr. Seuss, right?
Yeah.
So that is not a good name. So whoever was in charge of giving this bad person a name, that is not a good name. And because every time I hear that, I'm just going to laugh and I'm not going to take it serious. So
I
that's...
think the Ferengi are sort of kind of supposed to be funny in a lot of situations, but then it's supposed to be like they're either ridiculous or they are dangerous, but they're also ridiculous even though they're dangerous. And I think they were going for the dangerous in this, but yeah, that was a silly name. Definitely a silly name. So.
Yeah.
On the Titan, Hansen reports to Shaw that they've detected weapons fire in the nebula, but Shaw still doesn't want to help. And then Hansen says that Shaw can be the hero who saves heroes or the captain who let two legends die. So for this scene, first of all, I thought that Hansen, 7 of 9, was dismissed, but apparently she's not been dismissed because she's still reporting what's been going on the bridge. So that was weird. And this is not the first time that this happens in this episode. And so I'm just marking this as this was a check mark on me, like not check mark, but like a -1, like what the heck, like that, not consistent. But I did actually like the argument that she made, saying that this is your chance to like either you could be the hero who saves two heroes, or you could be remembered as the captain who let these legends die. Like under your watch, they were gone. So I thought that it seems to Shaw that he's about order and all of this stuff, but he judges everybody on their reputations because he doesn't personally know Riker. He didn't know much about 7 of 9's past. She's a great officer. We know this, but he's judging her on her reputation, on her record. And so this is something that would be important to him, would be how he is going to be remembered. And so she presented a very, I thought, good argument for possibly convincing him to change the way he's thinking about this scenario a little bit. So a little seed, and you might want to rethink what situation you're in.
I agree. But I don't think 7 of 9 would do that.
Oh?
Well, she's ex-Borg, right? And so she's going to do more logical, tactical stuff, in my mind. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't watched as much Star Trek in the Borg. But for me, they're hive mind. They're kind of a half mechanical, right? Mm-hmm. That is not. This is an appeal to emotions and social structure, right? That best comes from someone who is political or understands that, a salesman, and that is not her character. So I feel that this is a really wonderful way to convince Shaw to do this. Perfect. But I don't think 7 of 9 is that person to do that.
Okay, I think maybe like earlier on in her arc, it would have been less convincing. But at this point, because that's been her journey, is, getting in touch with her humanity again. And so I could see it at this point. But yeah, I guess it didn't bug me too much. But I can see where you're coming from, that maybe it was ever so slightly out there. I mean, I like what they've done with Hansen, that she has become, she's trying to get through Starfleet the right way and do this. So it didn't bug me too much. And we've seen enough of her, I think, in episode 1 and her journey through Voyager. It was enough for me to say, okay, yeah, she's good. So.
Okay. It didn't bother me horribly.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a minor.
One of those things. Yeah. I mean, these are the kinds of things that I would hope that the writers would sit down and ask these questions. Is this what this character would do? Now, that was a huge failure on the part of the writers in Nemesis. So the movie, the Next Generation movie Nemesis that came out, everybody was complaining. I heard that even the actors were going, my character would never do this. And the director was like, I don't care. You're going to do it. And I was like, that's a big problem. This is a much loved IP where people know these characters inside and out. They know what they're thinking. They know how they would behave. And you can say, well, we don't want to do always what they expect. True, but you don't want them to do things that are out of their character. And it's a bad mistake to make. So I would like to hope that you would see the writers doing that sort of thing. And I would say that they have not done much with figuring out what would someone like Picard and Riker do in these scenarios. Well, coming up, more stuff in the episode where I would be calling that into question. On the Elios, Picard sets up these transport inhibitors just before the enemy ship actually tries to transport Jack. And of course they fail because of the inhibitors. They realize then that they want Jack alive. Then suddenly 2 aliens board the ship, but Riker kills them very easily, barely an inconvenience. Then the aliens try a tractor beam, and it looks like they've got the Elios, but just then the Titan intervenes. Picard and the gang destroy the transport inhibitors, and then the Titan is able to transport Picard, Riker, Jack, and Beverly off of the Elios. Okay, this bit. What'd you think?
For the most part, I hated it, other than Shaw. Okay, so I love that they, Shaw, when they asked about should they bring in 2 life signs or 4, and he's like, well, bring them all. It's like we're running a hotel now. Okay, so that's funny. That's nice comedic stuff, and it's the kind of stuff that I expect from Shaw and why I'm liking him so much. However, I have a major problem with this scene, and the reason I'm going to give this episode a much lower rating has to do partly with this and partly with another one. So the Titan just shows up, right? Boom, right? Boom, it's there. Okay, and that's great. And this is something that I really dislike in movies and series. And we'll get this all the time, right? So something's happening, and then from off screen, something jumps on. But, okay, so we don't see it coming because the camera's pointed that way. But everyone else would, and especially like the monster or the bad guy or the good guy, whoever it is, would they be surprised because some guy ran across the parking lot in the open?
They didn't detect this giant ship coming?
They didn't detect this giant ship just coming straight at them.
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe. I mean, don't they have the guys on the sensors monitoring the situation?
This is supposed to be a super advanced ship, too.
The super advanced ship is like, oh, let's not pay attention to the thing that could be trouble. Let's just ignore it, and then we'll be surprised when it just jumps right in front of us.
And it was very precise. When they couldn't figure out, they're like, there's another ship and we're detecting fire. But they knew exactly where to come out of light speed. Within a few hundred meters, they were right there breaking the tractor beam. Like they knew exactly where to go.
Surprise!
Yeah.
I hated that a lot.
It was, yeah. And you know what? So when you write science fiction, especially something like Star Trek, now this is something I loved about TNG and the other series was that they actually had a team of real scientists that they consulted about everything that they had happen because they wanted to have the lingo, the jargon, the technical jargon make sense. Yeah. And they also wanted the scenarios that they were happening. Like, okay, what are some of the holes that we can see in this scenario? And they would discuss these things and go over them so that they would tie it up in a neat little package as best they possibly could. And this is one of those things where it's like, okay, and having it happen like once or twice is fine, but doing it a lot is a problem. And like I had a problem with this scene with the life support pod losing power. And so how does Jack fix it? Well, he just smacks it. Sort of like how you would smack the turn dial TVs or when the antenna weren't quite picking up the signal. To me, it just... how many of you have smacked your computer in the last 10 years to make it work again?
So I'm wondering if we're going to see a scene in a future episode where they end up having to do like aluminum foil antennas. We used to do that for our TV, right? Yeah. It wasn't getting good enough reception, so you'd make aluminum foil and okay, now we're getting better reception. You think they're going to do that?
They could. I don't know.
So there does seem to be this theme in this season where technology is faulty, and so like the very first episode, which was last episode. Sorry, I make it sound like it was a long time ago. It was just last episode. The Picard has problems with the computer, right? Yeah. He has tons of problems, and so now we're just going to smack things to make them work. I'm sorry, that doesn't feel like Star Trek to me. It doesn't feel much like science fiction. Oh wait, you know what it feels like?
What?
It feels like Star Wars.
It does.
Han Solo whacking
the ship to make it turn back on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what happened. They're trying to be Star Wars.
They're trying to be Star Wars.
I don't know why you'd want to be Star Wars right now, because Star Wars is not doing well. A couple other little tiny things that I had was LaForge had a cheesy line, and I'm not talking about Geordi, I'm talking about Sydney. They're like, what the hell is that ship? And she goes, I don't know, but it looks pissed. This is supposed to be Starfleet. At what point could you see, like, even even one of the more obnoxious characters, Wesley Crusher, sitting at the helm saying, I don't know, but it looks pissed. That just, if Shaw runs such a ship-shaped ship, why is an officer speaking out like that? He did not ask, like, specifically tell me about this ship. This was somebody who just made a silly comment off on the side. Not Star Trek-y, again, Star Wars-y though.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a Star Wars episode of Star Trek. That's what this was.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a step down. I mean, Star Wars is, although enjoyable for adults, it's meant to be like, it's very soft science fiction. It's more fantasy than science fiction, I've actually always thought, but it counts as sci-fi, I guess. Aliens, so.
Yeah. They have guns that go pew, pew, pew. That's science fiction.
Yeah. The other thing I had a problem with was I couldn't believe that Picard and Riker didn't realize the reason they couldn't get transported was because the transport inhibitors that Picard just set up. Like, it just escaped them in the moment. Like, that's why they can't transport us. Like, it had to be Jack who figures that out.
It is Grandpa.
He
right?
is Grandpa, though. So I guess it's in character with him being a little slow. Anyway, whatever. Back with Rafi Musiker again, we see her meeting up with her ex, who's the father of her son, she is at odds with. She asks her ex to introduce her to Sneed, the Ferengi broker. But the ex is upset that she isn't prioritizing her family, and he basically says, you know what, I will talk to either our son about, patching things up with you, or I will talk to Sneed. And he's like, your choice. And she silently chooses Sneed. This scene.
Sorry, Sneed.
Sneed. Yeah, I know. Okay, while you're laughing about the name Sneed, I'm going to say this. Okay, so here's my issue with this scene. It does set up some stakes for Rafi. Like, okay, she's paying a price to do this great thing. She's choosing the harder path, which is to do the right thing, and by not choosing her kid. However, she didn't have to do that. She could have looked at her ex and gone, I am on a mission right now, and if I don't find out this information, just so you know, that thing that happened to the recruitment center where 116 people died, that will happen on a much larger scale soon, maybe even where our son and his family lives. That's all. She would have just use words, just talk. But she didn't. She decided to keep it to herself. So now she's made this big sacrifice for no reason. It was a meaningless sacrifice. So although it was an attempt to, show that she's paying a price, this is the price of doing the right thing, and it's a big sacrifice for her, and we're on her side. It didn't have to happen. It so easily didn't have to happen. So that bugged the crap out of me.
All right, and I have a different thing that bothers me about this. So, Rafi?
Yeah.
Her storyline is mystery, sabotage, espionage, right? So this is a genre. And in this genre, we don't want to include conflict with the ex, right? Or the impending ex, because that is something that tends to cheapen, right? I mean, espionage and all that is more of a dark thing, and you don't throw this in unless you want to. You don't throw this in and hope it will, expect it to be effective, unless you want it to be funny. So if I'm writing this, I don't bring up the X and what a jerk the X is and how he's behind on, whatever might go with that, unless I specifically want a comedic element to counterpoint that storyline. I definitely don't include it as a serious part of the storyline because it just doesn't fit within that genre.
Well, I would say that I've seen a similar sort of thing. Like, so this happens in, okay, actually, remember in Velma?
I'm trying not to.
Oh, I know. We don't want to remember Velma. We all wish we could forget Velma. But okay, so remember the joke that Velma makes when she's meeting with the two detective cops, and she's like, it's always like, you have an alcoholism problem or something about like your you're going to lose custody of the kids because of your alcoholism problem. Like, that is exactly what this was. And so, oh my gosh, and she's a lesbian. Rafi is a lesbian. She's with 7 of 9.
So it fits into that stereotype,
Velma... that I had no I had absolutely no familiarity with because I'd never seen it before, but here it is.
Okay.
Maybe these people watched Velma and said, oh, we should do that so that stereotype is true. Oh.
Okay.
Anyway, but I've seen that sort of thing sort of done before. And I could see it be, it can be done for drama. It can be done like, you're bringing in the X and it's a problem. But the thing is it's been done, and it has been done in ways that are tired, and this could have been so easily solved. I would just expect the writers of Star Trek who are capable of such clever and good storytelling and character development to have thought of this kind of thing. So to me, it was an easy solution to increasing the stakes for her. Just have her not mention that she's trying to save the world. So that way she has to sacrifice her family for the price of saying one more sentence. By the way, I'm saving the world if I do this. Anyway. Back on the Titan, we've got Picard, Riker, and Jack. They're just arriving on the bridge when suddenly the enemy ship hails them. It's some lady named Vadic. Captain Vadic reveals that she has inside knowledge on confidential Starfleet information. She knows about the psychological profile of Shaw, which has some sort of an indication that he has a traumatic past, and she also knows about Picard having a synthetic body. So she says that Jack Crusher has a bounty on his head, and she's a bounty hunter. When the Titan scans Vadic's ship, they notice advanced weapons and that will outdo their own, and unknown technology loaded into the primary weapons bay. So Vadic gives them 1 hour to hand over Crusher, and then to prove that she's more powerful than them, she hurls the Elios at the Titan using some sort of weird tractor beam technology. Okay, so I thought it was a little silly, first of all, that this villain is, again, it feels like a tropey sort of villain. We've seen this sort of thing before.
A bounty hunter?
No, not a bounty hunter. This particular bounty hunter. Okay, do you remember in Firefly? We had two very cool bounty hunters in Firefly. Oh, yeah. We had the guy who was in the very last episode. What was his name? Early or Earl? I can't remember what his name was, but he was into philosophy and poetry and stuff, and he was a little nutty. He was like really into what his job is, and he liked to play psychological games with people. That was new and interesting, and we liked that. And then in the movie, we had another bad guy, bounty hunter, and he was also kind of into philosophy, and but he believed in what he was doing, that he was doing the right thing. So it was another, he's like, I'm on the side of good, and then they had to show him, you're not on the side of good, you're on the side of bad.
In my mind, one of the best villains in any show or book that I've encountered was that second villain.
The second villain, yeah, I liked him a lot too. The first one was just creepy. Some of the stuff that he would say was just, it gave me it gave me the heebie-jeebies. It might be old, but the heebie-jeebies. I got the heebie-jeebies from him. But this bounty hunter gal, I wasn't scared of her. I was like, I've seen this kind of villain before, so not that I wasn't scared. I was just like, yeah, nothing new here. Nothing original. So I felt bored. I felt bored by this villain. Let's see. I also had a problem with, we've got, again, we have Hansen is on the bridge again, even though she's been dismissed. Okay, here she is again. But we've also got, all right, let me double check this note really fast. Okay, so they're now scanning the ship and discovering that it has all of this technology that they're afraid of. But we've already kind of established they were afraid of the ship before, because when they scanned and they went in there, they saw, oh no, they're being fired upon. Like, oh no, but we don't want to go in there because we'll get the crap beaten out of us. They already have assumed that they're going to get the crap beaten out of us. Why now were they like, oh, well, let's stand up for ourselves? And they're like, oh, they really do have weapons. Now we're scared again. It just felt like kind of like we're going on this roller coaster that's manufactured as opposed to feeling like it's genuine, because first they were reluctant to risk themselves, then they were brave. Now they're standing up for themselves, but now they're like, oh no, we're outgunned. What? Can you just have some consistency in how they feel about the villain? Like, are they afraid of him or not? I would just like to see that. That's all. How about you?
I got a couple of things. So first of all, they bring in bounty hunters, kind of like Boba Fett.
Star Wars again. Oh my gosh.
Okay, but this is where they lost me. So I really dislike this episode for this scene, which is they do the tractor beam and they grab the ship and they like whip it around. That is not how tractor beams work.
It's a pull or a push, not a sideways thing.
That was ridiculous. That just isn't Star Trek. It was stupid. And as soon as I saw that, that was it. I was out of the episode. I didn't want to watch anymore. It was just so stupid to see that I was done with the episode.
And we're supposed to be like, holy crap, they threw a ship. And I was sitting there going like, well, that was so ridiculous. And you know what? This is a sign that people who watch Star Trek expect more thought put into the science fiction elements. They expect it to be a little bit more believable. Yes, Star Trek is way out there as far as science fiction goes, but they at least wouldn't have done this. I just don't see them doing this.
It kind of reminded me, there's a comedy, science fiction comedy. Dang it, and I don't remember which one it is. I can just remember the scene where the spaceship is going and all of a sudden it like, you get the tire squealing sound in space and it does like a,
was that like a
360 and then goes. No, it was before Futurama.
Spaceballs?
It might have been, Space. I think it was Spaceballs.
Or what was the British one, Red Dwarf?
It was
Red Dwarf? Okay.
To see that spaceship whip itself around and the tire screeching, it reminded me of that. It was just ridiculous.
It was very ridiculous. And as Star Trek fans, we expect something a little more thoughtful and believable. This was the Marvel treatment. I felt like they gave Star Trek Picard Season 3 the Marvel treatment with their... oh my gosh, they threw a ship. I miss the days of the Borg being a hive mind. I miss those days. What a terrifying villain. Just ever-spreading, unstoppable force. I miss those. I miss that. Let's see, then we've got Shaw learns that Hansen has heard of a ship with no flag with every known weapon to Starfleet and then some. Hansen also has pulled up some information on Jack and hands that over to Captain Shaw. In a private discussion, Jack tells Picard and Riker that he's never heard of this Vadic person, Vadic. Then Shaw comes in with records showing that Crusher has multiple names and is actually an intergalactic fugitive, a con man, and so he sends Jack to the brig. That's when Hansen says, look, I doubt that Vadic is actually a bounty hunter, and Shaw goes, you know what, you are relieved of duty for insubordination. So Picard defends Hansen, and then Riker defends Jack, but Shaw says, look, the Titan can't win against that other ship, so he intends to hand Jack over in 1 hour. Then in private, a little aside, Riker tells Picard to admit that Jack might be his son. Well, he doesn't actually say that, but he basically, yeah. Okay, so this scene was, again, we're seeing 7 of 9 or Hansen being relieved of duty again. So Shaw people don't respect what he says. When he dismisses somebody, they are allowed to still be on the bridge and still working. And yeah, so this is just, I don't know, that bugged me a lot. I just don't like the way that this ship is operating. You've got Shaw running around, acting like a coward. Nobody is throwing around interesting ideas. So when you watch TNG and other Star Trek shows, the observation lounge especially is a place where ideas are tossed around, where they go, okay, guys, suggestions. That was the famous thing that you would hear Picard say, is he would sit down in there and he'd say, suggestions, anyone? And he would listen to the ideas. And you're not seeing that anywhere in this episode. From beginning to end, nobody is trying to figure out what should we do, because these are all smart people. They're all scientists and physicists and engineers and weapons specialists and tactical specialists. Why are they not discussing these things with each other? Why are they just making decisions based on their emotions? And to me, it was, again, very un-Star Trek-y, and I just felt like I was watching a Marvel movie, except that it happens to take place in the Star Trek universe for some reason. So I didn't like that. I had a bunch of other complaints, but honestly, if I complained about every little thing about this episode, we'd be here forever.
No, and I don't want that to be the case.
I don't want that to be the case either. What do you think?
Same as you.
Yeah. It was just not good. I'm sorry. Sorry. Picard meets with Jack and reads out the crimes that he's accused of, and Jack says that, look, Beverly taught me to commit black market crime in order to bring medicine to people who need it. Picard says that he doesn't believe that Beverly would do this sort of thing and asks, "Who's your father?" And Jack says he's never had one. Picard lays out the consequences of handing Jack over, that it would betray his old friend, but he also says, look, if we harbor you, that's possibly going to cost the lives of the hundreds of people on this ship.
They're playing out this whole Picard doesn't recognize his son, even though massive amounts of hints have been given to us. And I always hate when shows do this. It's like, okay.
We all know.
We all know. Just move there quicker and
Drop
let's
the
get
other
it over.
shoe, would ya?
Yeah, we're done with it. I didn't really care for any of these bits.
I didn't either. And at this point, we know that he's his son just because everybody is saying he's your son. So just get it over with. Yeah. And again, I was not impressed with poor Patrick Stewart's performance. And it was not being able to get the voice right, not being able to get the facial expressions right. His posture does not even seem captainly or, even retired captainy. It just felt like this show needs to end now. But
we love you, Patrick.
We do. I love Patrick Stewart. I seriously, he's probably the reason why I watched TNG from the beginning. And he reminds me of my own grandpa in his younger days. And seriously, this is so depressing. But anyway. Okay, back with Rafi Musiker. She is at Sneed's drug den. She offers money and asks if he brokered a deal selling portal tech to the Romulan Toluco, and claims that she actually knows that he lied about this because she works for Toluco. Sneed suspects that she is with Starfleet and asks her to prove that she isn't by doing some drugs in front of him. So she does, and then Sneed reveals that he knows she's lying about working for Toluco because he has Toluco's head, literally. Musiker then attacks Sneed, and Sneed's guards move in for the kill, but they are attacked by some blade-wielding badass who kills the guards and Sneed. Then Rafi faints, but is carried out by her rescuer, who is Wharf, who reveals that he was her handler all along. Okay, let's talk about this scene. You want to do it?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay, I'm so happy to see Wharf, but it was so freaking... I know that there's been some cheesy stuff in the show, and even in some of the movies, but come on, look at the budget for this series, this Picard Season 3, and this is supposed to be the final. I just want better. I don't want there to be this lingering pause on his face and him not moving, going, I told you to not engage. And then, oh my gosh, but...
But a bright point on that is we do see Wharf.
Yes.
And Wharf is
I love Wharf. He's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, so we get to see him. So that's good. Yay. And he comes in and he kicks butt. I did hate in the series when it was originally out that Wharf, they trotted him out whenever they needed to show how tough the aliens were. So Wharf got beat up all the time.
That is true.
So, and I was trying to like, no, let's just let Wharf beat things up. And only very rarely does he get beat up.
And he was a badass in this.
Yeah, and he was there. I mean, that's the Wharf that I love, and I got to see that. So, yay for that.
Yeah. Other than that, it was very little to say about this scene. I thought it was, again, something that we've seen done before. Like, prove to me that you're not with the feds and do some drugs in front of me. We have seen this so many times in drug movies and shows. It's
well, and it also doesn't make sense. If he's got the other guy's head in a jar or whatever he's...
Yeah,
why do you even need to do that? That to me, that's just is stupid. It doesn't apply. And we've seen both. We're like, take the drugs to show you're not a Fed. Or here's the head of like, I just talked with so-and-so this morning. I don't know. Hey, Bob, what do you think?
That would have been better.
That'd have been way better. Yeah. Right, there's that.
That would have been hilarious.
I agree. She's lying.
Yeah.
And that'd have been a good laugh. I think it actually would have been appropriate because that is a dark humor, that whole the head and you're talking to it and everything. And this mystery and espionage dark humor is very appropriate for that.
Yeah.
And that would have been way better than what we got. Instead we got two overused tropes and that don't work together. And so this whole scene is only saved by the fact that Wharf shows up.
Yeah.
Yay!
I love Wharf, and he's looking good. He's got the kind of like, it's weird because I was getting like the old Chinese martial artist guy, like with the white eyebrows and stash. I was like, I like you looking good there. Michael Dorn's looking good as Wharf with the white. It's nice. It's a good look for him.
Yeah.
But also, one quick note was that they introduced that Sneed is a lover of old human items, and this is something that's been bothering me in our review of The Last of Us, is that interesting things are introduced, but then not used any further. I thought that him having a love for old human stuff was going to play into how Rafi was going to deal with him. Like maybe she offers something really valuable human thing, some valuable human thing, but it never comes up. He just introduces himself as loving old human stuff. And I would have liked to have seen something more done with that. But it's just a stupid little thing. If you're going to build a world that's rich like this, have the richness there with a purpose, not just to be oh, look, we've painted that wall orange. Who cares? Unless the person who's walking into the room is colorblind and they're looking for the orange wall. Like, it's not interesting if it doesn't have anything to do deliberately with the plot. So that was a terrible example, an orange wall, but it was the only thing I could think of just on the fly. So now we're back with Picard. He is with Shaw, and he says that they need to discuss a course of action that does not involve cooperating with this mysterious ship, Vadic. Shaw doesn't want to sell out his crew and doesn't actually believe that Jack is Beverly's son. Then he reminds him that, look, there's 15 minutes left on the clock. Okay. My notes for this scene are super fast because it was a super quick scene. Is what the hell was the point of this scene? We already know that that they need to discuss another course of action. Like that's just stating the obvious. So why is Picard even mentioning this? And also, he's mentioning it's a stupid line. We need to discuss a course of action that does not involve cooperating. This is not Picard speaking. He would not say this. He would have a solution, or he would say, he would go on his own to discuss what they should do with the rest of the crew or something. He wouldn't be like, we have to come up with some plan that isn't, the most obvious thing that we should be doing right now. It was dumb. But also, so then the other things that they talk about is Shaw doesn't want to sell out his crew, which we already knew. And he says the reason he doesn't want to do this is because he doesn't believe that Jack is Beverly's son, which he has already said. And then he gives Picard 15 minutes. And I'm like, 15 minutes? At least a couple, it seems to me that a couple of hours has gone by, or a lot of time has gone by. So he has only spent 15 minutes talking to Jack in the brig and then coming back.
But
it's weird.
15 minutes can save you 15% on car insurance
by switching to Geico. And it's so easy that a caveman can do it.
There we go.
I know. This to me was like the only new information in here was that you have 15 minutes, which was so stupid because a half an hour was not a lot of time. So, whatever, the end. In the brig, we see Jack escape from his cell. And then in sickbay, we see Riker coming in and discovering that, okay, Beverly's arterial wounds are fixed, but she's still recovering and she's being kept sedated. But he moves in to revive her. Then we got Picard tells Shaw that they should contact Vadic and try to bring her down a bit in negotiation. And then Vadic comes back on and she reveals that her ship is called the Shrike, which kills precisely and with no feeling. And basically, she's saying that she has no compassion, so there's no negotiating with her, as if she overheard their conversation. Okay, again, I'm just going to ignore the fact that Jack was able to escape so easily from the brig. It just felt ridiculous.
Right, because if you're going to put someone in jail,
shouldn't you search them?
You don't search them. Why would you do that, right? And it's not like this is Star Trek and that's in the future and they would have scanners. Do they use the scanners anymore?
No. We don't need no stinking scanners.
We don't need no stinking scanners. The original series, they carried those puppies around all the time. They scanned everything, even when they didn't have to. But apparently now that it's gone past the original series, they don't do that stuff anymore.
And no brains were involved in this. We didn't see Jack being very clever. He just happened to have exactly the right device that he would need to break out of the brig on a Starfleet ship. Exactly the right thing, and he also happened to have the only dumb guard that there ever was, tell me what the frequency of this shield wall is. Like, okay, I have to tell you. And then it was just dumb. This is just dumb. Just
dumb. Not like why are you asking for that?
Yeah, it was so stupid.
Like, okay,
so
here you
contrived.
go.
I'm sorry. This is. And then the conversation between Picard and Shaw, like again, like we should bring her down. Try to bring her down a notch by if we stand up, maybe it'll bring her down. This is not an intelligent person who has been strategic in the past. He would realize we are in a very bad position. They are so much more powerful than we are. We have no cards. He's a poker player. Picard is, well, we saw him jump into a poker game at the very end of TNG, but he does play poker and he's a strategist. He should know we've got no cards. Just standing up to her is not going to do crap. They're in the middle of nowhere. They're far away from everybody else. Standing up is not going to do anything. And I just felt like it was stupid. It's all stupid. This is all so stupid. Stupid.
It's not well thought out.
No. Actually, I do have one last note. Shaw's facial expression when Vadic is like, we're named after the Shrike, which kills, without feeling and precisely like a surgeon. His face at that moment, it did make me laugh, I'll say. So
Okay.
he is a comedic actor. He must be, because that was the worst poker face in all of history for any captain. Like he looks like, oh my gosh, we're like that's what his face was there. That was so bad, and I'm gonna have to beep that out. I'm sure I'll beep it out, but
Yeah.
that was the worst. Like now, I can't even. I'm so done. I'm done with this show.
Right. So once again, Shaw, my favorite part of this show.
He's funny.
He's funny. I could really write some great stuff with him in a series. Yeah. So
in a comedy series, not a drama.
yes, but obviously his talents lend itself towards comedy.
Yes.
And that is what they're using him primarily for.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe they're not. Maybe they don't think they're writing him for comedic purposes.
Maybe.
That would be a mistake because I find him hilarious.
Yeah, he is becoming a bit of a joke, so. Suddenly, everyone realizes that Jack has escaped. Hansen happens to find him in the transporter room trying to hand himself over to the Shrike. Even faced with this knowledge that Jack is trying to save his mother and the ship, Captain Shaw is still very willing to just hand him over to save his crew. Then Riker brings in Beverly, who's still a little woozy. And with a single wordless look at Picard, she confirms to Picard that Jack is his son. That's when Picard steps up, takes command, and reveals to everybody that Jack is his son. And now Shaw concedes, and he tells everybody to prepare to run. Then, on Picard's command, they shoot the Shrike and then run into the nebula cloud. Okay, so once again, 7 of 9, Hansen, still on duty despite having been now dismissed twice.
I think that what I would do is in this show that we're talking about with Shaw, that would be a running gag that he dismisses everyone and then they're still there. They're still this thing. And maybe it's because he's like, why weren't you at your station? You dismissed me, sir. Well, don't pay any attention when I dismiss you. You need to be where you need to be. And that could be a running gag.
Yep.
I think it could be funny.
That would be funny. That would be really funny because nobody has respect for Shaw. Nobody respects him at all. They're talking out of turn on the bridge. They're not listening to him when they're fired or told to go somewhere. And I understand because he is completely incompetent. He's not coming up with any ideas. He's not doing anything brave that would give them like pride in what they do. So they're on the shit show, like the shit show ship.
I love him.
So anyway.
Okay.
Okay. I just had to say that I did the famous Picard facepalm when they revealed that Jack is his son, because we all knew it this whole time, and it was the one thing that I was like, this would be the worst thing that they could do is make Jack actually his son. And now, and I will say this, because Beverly is the one who has confirmed it wordlessly, although she has no lines, like, it's kind of funny. It was sort of a running thing that they underutilized the actress Gates McFadden in the series and then also in the movies. And I was like, she had no lines in this episode, but whatever. Anyway, this was the worst thing they could do.
You know what would have been better? So instead of all this ridiculous, like, oh, he kind of looks like you, and I mean, all these stupid things that we've been seeing And we're like, we know he's the son. Stop, right? It would have been so much more entertaining if we saw if the episode spent lots of time with Picard and Jack finding solutions. And what we end up seeing is they both kind of take an action, and there's a similarity in action. And of course, Jack, his is always more on the criminal side, right? And Picard's is always on the side of Starfleet and every law and order and everything. But we see a similar strategy, right? We see a similar thinking.
Some similar things, but we didn't see anything similar.
And even you can resort to physical gags, meaning like you see them both reach at the same time.
Yeah, mannerisms being similar,
right?
Yeah.
That'd be way more entertaining.
Yeah.
And conflict, right? Because they're on the opposite sides, law and order and against, crime and everything. This could be a really great episode if you do that instead of this ridiculous stuff that like, oh yeah, this is your son.
Yeah. And that was a big critique of mine. A big problem I had with this episode was that here's Riker saying, you seriously don't see any similarities between you and this kid? And I'm going, no. I don't. There are no similarities between, think about what Picard was in the series, which is when he was at his bravest and, he was dignified, always, he was I would say 99% of the time, he conducted himself with dignity and maturity and a level head. That's what he was. He was not a Captain Kirk. And that is what this kid is. Jack is the Han Solo, Captain Kirk type character, smart ass. I don't like him. I mean, yeah, he's doing the noble thing, which makes him, okay, that's what makes him likable. He's trying to hand himself over in order to save his mother and the ship. But he has no traits or mannerisms or anything to make me think of Picard.
And he physically doesn't look anything like.
And I can forgive that.
Well,
because,
sure.
It's not really his son, but you've got to give him some similarities. You've got to make it we should all be thinking wow, I totally see what Riker's saying. He reminds me a lot of Picard, but he did not say or do one thing that made me think of Picard. He could have been Riker's son. I could have seen that.
And he looks a lot more like Riker's son than he does Picard.
And he had more facial expressions like Riker. Oh my gosh, how hilarious would that be if they made him Riker's son? Maybe that's the twist, is she wasn't looking at Picard, she was looking at Riker, but because she was a little loopy, her eyes were falling on Picard. Picard assumed I have his son. No,
yeah. Let's go with that.
Yeah,
we're going to pretend that's what they did, which would make it much more interesting.
I am all for the oh no, I was trying to tell you it was Riker's son, but it's all a misunderstanding. Oh my gosh. And you know what? I don't like these facial expressions that he's doing. He's like, have you seen his face when he does that? He's like, I don't get it. It's not Picardly at all.
So we are having way more fun with our ideas of what we would do
than we are with the show. And it breaks my heart that this is the last season of Star Trek Next Generation, and it's clearly being given the Marvel treatment. Let's just have some big action sequences and some manufactured drama, and they'll just love to see the old actors. We do, though. Gosh, I was so happy to see Wharf. I love Wharf.
Yeah.
But at the same time, come on. Can't you send them off with some dignity? Yes.
Send them off to a hospice. A space hospital. All right. Are we ready to give a rating?
Oh, geez. I don't know.
I'm going to give it a 5. Yay, Wharf. I love seeing Wharf. That was great.
You know what? This is a weird thing, but I'm actually going to rate it slightly higher than you this time. This will be the first time I've given a higher rating than you. Because I'm just going to say, pretend this was not Star Trek. If this was not Star Trek and it was Marvel, it was doing all right. It was on par, so I would say a 6 or 7. But again, it's hard to ignore that this is supposed to be Star Trek. There's supposed to be more thought put into these things. You have a stupid crew, a stupid captain.
If this was Velma, I'd give it a 9.5.
There you go. my gosh. Can you please just, can somebody with some competence get behind the writing team and smack them in their butts and just tell them, like, look, guys, we need to watch the series. We need to, think about the things that the writers then were doing. And, at their best, because I will be the first to admit that there's some crap writing and even acting and all this stuff in Next Generation. But when they were good, they were really good. And they should be at least that good. At least as good as their best in Next Generation for the finale of the whole series for the Next Generation crew. So I feel exhausted and heartbroken, and it's going to be very, very difficult for me to enjoy this because I just feel like it's not going to get much better. It
is not going to be difficult for me because this is the last episode we're going to review.
Yeah, I think we've decided to call it quits on this show, mainly because, well... it's hard to watch, and it takes a lot of effort to edit all of this. And, I might watch the series eventually, but I don't really plan to continue just because they've screwed up the first 2 seasons of Picard to the point that I couldn't even watch a couple episodes. And here I am on episode 2 of season 3, and I don't feel much better about it.
Yeah.
So... Anyway, we love you, Patrick Stewart. We love the whole crew of The Next Generation, and we wish nothing but the best for all of you guys, and I hope that this is a success for your guys' sake. But I think for me, being a fan of the original series and wishing that it could have at least done some justice to the series, I have to tap out. Maybe I'll check it out someday, but not this day. That was my Aragorn speech.
Yay.
So, yay. Let's go defeat the Dark Lord now. Till later. Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Later.